Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Today with Jovenes Unidos, we're going to be talking about time and stress management. I feel is a very, very important topic because nowadays with our life and school and work and everything else that is going around us, is very easily to get distracted and stressed, right? Because we get behind, because we have so much to do, because we have little time, and it's because we can't extend the days, but we could manage our time better, right? So can we please go to the next slide?
Of course.
Okay, so we spoke about a little bit about our experiences, right? About our experiences with time and stress management and how we do that. And then we're going to be talking about now about how to manage our time, right? And how what benefits there is about that, and how to tips and tricks on how to actually do it. And then lastly, Michelle is going to discuss stress management. And these two topics really tie together because if you can manage your time, you can manage your stress, right? And lastly, we'll have Q&A at the end.
Oh no. Please hold. Technical difficulties.
Technology at its finest.
All right. See, this is why we need people like Framer, the tech guys,
Next slide.
All right.
All right. So what is time management, right? So time management is the ability to use your time, like I said, effectively, do what you want to do with the time that you have, right? So it's being productive, accomplishing all your goals, tasks, chores, necessities, wants, etc., right? And at the end of everything, I feel like it should align with your greater goal, right? If you think about it, life is, one day you wake up, right, and you do certain hobbies, goals, certain habits that you do, right? But if you put all your days little by little, that creates your life, right? So it's very easy to lose the essence, right? So every day creates your life, and if you really want to create like a bigger goal or have like, like Framer said, go to school here, like you have to have a goal every day, kind of practice and preach and walk the walk, right? Walk the walk, meaning that all your goals and what you do really aligns with the end goal, which is going to school here, right? And so it also means knowing the difference between being busy and productive. And I could also use this for myself, right? So being busy is like constantly having a to-do list, things to do, which is something gratifying. I could assure you that I love to have to-do lists. But being productive is actually completing and doing things that matter to you and that are aligned with your purpose and what you actually want to do, right? So busy is like just being busy, like, okay, or tons of things that really don't matter to you. Productive is more focused. And so planning is very important in time management, obviously, because if you don't plan, then you kind of let it for chance, right? Oh, if it happens, and then time keeps running, life happens every day, every week, every month, every year. I mean, it's been 2 years since the pandemic, and I'm like, wait, what? I'm still in 2020. But yeah, that's how life goes. The next thing you know, it's been 5 years, 10 years. And so just be very cautious and mindful of that, because I feel like sometimes we lose a lot of time thinking that we have. I mean, we do have a lot of it, but if we can maximize it and be productive and intentional about the things that we want to do, and really plan our life to do the things that will get us there, then it will be perfect. Next slide. All right. So what are the why should we have, time management? So having a work-life integration, right? So integration meaning balance, right? So if you have work, you go to work, you go to school, you have a career, you have a project, things that, are career-wise and development-wise, right? And then you have life, which is waking up, family, love, relationship, parents, friends, etc. So like being able to like make an integration and really having a balance is very hard, right? But if you have the integration and you have a planner for say or a calendar, um that you could be like, okay, so today I'm going to study for this test, um, from I don't know 2 to 5, but then after 5 I'm gonna spend some time with my parents, or I'm gonna go, read a book, so like being intentional about the things that you want to do and making time for them, right? And so also another benefit is decreasing anxiety and stress, and we were going to talk about that a little bit more later. But if you do manage your time better, you'll decrease you have less of a chance to be, anxious or stressed, because you know what you're going to do, you plan your day accordingly, you don't have like time just like wasted, right? Because you're like, okay, I'm going to do this 5 things today, I completed it, you feel happy about that, and you're being intentional and getting things done. So you won't be anxious like, oh my God, I wasted a day, or oh my God, this test is due tomorrow, or oh my God, I haven't written this essay or haven't done this, right? And so as you manage your time, right, you also create freedom, because if you're like, okay, this day I'm gonna just do study. So then if you study today, then tomorrow you'll be like, oh, tomorrow I can go hang out with my friends, right? Because you already allocated time for the studying, which is important for your tests or your school, right? And as you complete these tasks and you have a better control over your task in your life, you create confidence. You're like, okay, I got this. I am doing my work. I am going to school. I am having time with my friends. I am taking time for myself and with what I want, right? So that creates confidence in yourself and you controlling your life and your goals, that you're able to accomplish your goals, you're able to allocate time to be with your friends, and also that you're confident to maybe take on another task if or another project that you're interested in. And so there's a lot of things that you can do to manage your time, right? But some tips and tricks that I use for my own sake. I use calendars. I use Google Maps, Google Maps, Google Calendars. I use agendas, right? I have agendas and journals all over the house with like to-do lists and things that I want to do for the day. I use my calendar all the time because I feel like it's so important to be like, okay, today I want to do these 10 things. And what I do is that I write like the night before. I write, okay, these things I'm gonna do tomorrow. So I kind of let it out of my head, right? So in the night when I go to sleep, I already wrote down everything I want to do. So like when I'm laying down, I don't think about things, right? Like, oh my God, I have to do this tomorrow, I have to do that. So you just relax, right? I also use my phone as an alarm, right? So if I have meetings, like at 2, at 4, at 6, at 7, I set alarms on my phone so it reminds me, it rings like, okay, it's time for me to do this, right? And planning ahead. Planning ahead is obviously very important because if you don't plan, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. That's actually an episode of Gem and Me, the podcast, is coming up this Friday. Check it out. So being intentional with, what you do, what you're planning. Like I said, just don't plan something for the sake of planning. Plan it because it's important to you and because it aligns with what you are planning to do for your life, your goals, your job, your family, right? Things that matter. Like I said, doing a to-do list, and then you have a to-do list and you're like, oh, I don't know where to start from the easiest. Once you do an easy one and you like check it off, you'll gain momentum and confidence that you can continue to conquer the rest of the list, right? And like I said, align with your focus, with what matters to you. Don't overthink it, right? There's a typo there, I'm sorry guys. Don't overthink it. Because we look at the list and we're like, oh my God, this list is so long, I don't know what to do. Like I said, just start with one and then you'll kick it off and start, getting rid of the others. And procrastination, I know, is a sin, guys. It really is. Don't procrastinate, because I feel like once you procrastinate, you start getting anxiety, you start getting stressed because you're supposed to do this like yesterday and you haven't done it yet. And then that creates, stress and doubt that you can do it. And you can also like, get discouraged. You don't even want to do it anymore because it's due now. Um, Learn to say no. I know it's hard, guys, it is. But we have to learn, set those boundaries. Sometimes our family or friends want us to do 100 things for them. But if you can't be present for yourself, you can't be present for others. So learn to say no. Minimize distractions, right? So if you are doing an essay or you are reading, try to isolate yourself, to like, okay, I'm gonna do this for the next 20 minutes. Isolate yourself and just, do it, because if you're like doing something, you're like having a friend there, or your mom is talking to you, you're like, oh yeah, and then 2 hours pass and you haven't done anything. Talking from experience. Hold yourself accountable. Oh wow. So yeah, so guys, if you do want to do something, the first person that you're trying to impress and make sure that you do it, the person that actually cares is you, right? So just do it for yourself. Do it because you want to, and if it's important, you'll do it. Um, but yeah, I feel like we have to hold ourselves accountable to do what we say we want to do. I mean, if it matters, right? And then the 20-minute rule. So 20-minute rule is that you just, like I said, just isolate yourself for 20 minutes. Do, whatever you're doing just for 20 minutes, just do that. Like put your phone aside, excuse me, or isolate yourself from others so you're not distracted, but just like do that only for 20 minutes, no distract. And you'll be more productive, and you'll feel like you got stuff done and that you were able to like get far on an essay or on the book or whatever you're doing, right? And last but not least, take a break. That's the hardest. I feel like that's the hardest for me, taking a break. Because I'm constantly, doing stuff. And I feel like you guys are also like, activated. You also want to create and be active and productive and learning and doing this and doing that. And we get caught. I mean, that fills us, right? That makes us happy. But at the end of the day, the body does need rest, right? So remember to take a break. Next slide. So what tools, right? Like I said, Google Calendar is one of my favorites. You guys have your emails, you have access to Google Calendar. I use like different colors for different things, school, work, Jovenes Unidos, the podcast, different things, workout. Everything is different colors, makes it more attractive. Um, and different times, of course, you allocate your time for what you do. Framer has a perfect example. Framer, at the end, I want you to show everybody your perfect agenda. And so also, like I said, the phone, right? On our phones we have calendars that we can add, what we have to do if you want to have it with you all the time, and Google Calendar as well. An agenda and notebooks if you like to like check off, like I do. Use stickers and highlight and star and stick and circle and underline. If you're, into that, please do it. And then the phone alarm, I use that to like to remind me of like, okay, you have a meeting or you have to do this, you have to go to, to the gym. I also saw this chart, but I wanted to show you guys the grid, and it's like a tool. It looks like you do like different sections, right? So different things that you have to do, things that are important, or like you have to do it right away, right? On the top left corner, and then on the top right is not urgent but important, right? So you have to do it soon. So this grid here, it can be very helpful for you guys to kind of allocate and plan your stuff, if you have a long list and you kind of want to be like, okay, I could do this tomorrow, next week, or Saturday, or whatever it is. That could probably help you too. And like I said, remember to breathe. So I conclude my part of the presentation. Thank you, guys.
Wow, Catherine, thank you so much. Like, that was such a wonderful collection of tips and tricks and techniques for time management. Um, I also love, like Framer actually said in the chat before you even got to it, Framer said there are a lot of apps to manage our personal time every day. So our tech man Framer, he's, just a time management pro. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. And so, if other people like Yender, Samantha, if you want more time management tips in terms of like what apps you might be able to use, maybe Framer could help you out, and maybe he could refer you to some cool apps that would be helpful tools. Personally, I'm a little old school with my time management, and I have like a physical notebook that I like to keep for myself. And so every week I have a new page, and I like write in all my things that I need to do, my plans, and then I like to have a blank page on the other side just to write like general notes and ideas and doodles. And whoa, the background is cutting in a weird way. But everyone has their own unique time management technique and approach that works for them. So Catherine, thank you for like the huge variety so that we can all just pick and choose whatever works for us. I love that.
Thank you.
Of course. All right. So now that we've heard about these amazing time management tips and tricks, I'm going over to now what happens if sometimes our time management skills don't really like work out. Maybe we fall behind on things. Maybe we procrastinated a little bit, which, I am definitely guilty of that. I do a lot of procrastinating in my life. So something I'm still working on too. And the thing is, like, when that happens, and our time management kind of falls apart a little bit, or we procrastinate, life gets in the way, something or another, then sometimes we can feel a lot of stress. So we thought it would be nice to put these two topics together, time management, and then if time management doesn't go well, then we can go into stress management. So our next topic is stress. What is it? What is this stress thing? Because like I kind of know, like I know how stress feels. Like I know when I'm feeling stressed out, but really, what is it from the perspective of biology? I kind of want to talk to you about that today as a former science teacher myself. And then I wanted to talk to you about the effects on the body, again, from the kind of biological perspective. Then we'll go on to some fundamental basic truths that are universal to all humans about stress. But then after we talk about the universal truths about stress, then we'll go on to some management techniques. And just like what we saw for Catherine's time management tips and tricks, there are so many different ways that you can manage time. There are so many different ways that you can manage stress. So the specific management techniques that work for you may be different from what works for someone else. So just like Catherine, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of different management techniques, and hopefully something will resonate with you and be useful for you in your stress management practice. All right, so here we go. First of all, what is stress? Again, I'm coming from the science teacher background, right? I taught a lot of biology and chemistry in my years as a science teacher. And from that perspective, stress is literally just a survival response. So when stress originally evolved in animals, it was actually to help kind of the prey animals, like let's say we have a lion and a deer. Stress evolved to help the deer run away from the lion. If there's a predator coming to hunt you, then stress actually is a very useful tool, because what stress does is it creates that like adrenaline rush, the fight or flight response, where you either want to start fighting, you're filled with all this energy, or all that energy becomes run away. And these are just the way that these are the responses that animals that are hunted by other animals, that's how they respond to seeing a predator. They either fight or they fly and they run away from that. So stress is originally supposed to be a tool that helps prey animals survive some scary situations with predators. Okay. But then, it's interesting because nowadays we feel stress still, but there aren't lions hunting us anymore. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, let's say we're talking about this deer running away from the lion, right? And the deer starts to have the stress response, which is a survival tool, right? It's actually a useful tool to survive. So biologically, what does it look like when we have the stress response? We're thinking about the deer. Now, if the deer wants to survive, we have to think about, okay, well, what body parts are the most important if you're trying to fight or if you're trying to run away? What body parts need the most energy? So I'm thinking maybe if we're fighting, then your arms might need a lot of energy. Maybe if you're running away, then your legs would need a lot of energy. And so what happens is the parts of your body that are useful when you're fighting or you're running, like your arms and legs, these large muscle groups, your heart, which pumps blood around your body and gets oxygen everywhere to the muscle groups, and your lungs that help you to kind of get that oxygen flowing, really use your muscles. These are the parts of your body that your body gives all of the energy and the resources, and it pours a lot of that into just these specific functions that help you fight or run away if a predator is attacking you. Okay, so now these are the things that are useful if you're being kind of hunted by a lion. Now let's think about what things are not so useful if you're being hunted by a lion. Okay, so in that moment when the deer is running away from the lion, what is less important? I'm thinking maybe the immune system, right? Like if you have a flu and you're a little bit sick, achoo. Well, I mean, if a lion is attacking you, the flu is lower priority. We don't need to worry about that right now. We just need to worry about running away from this lion. So the body gives a little bit less to the immune system. The body gives a little bit less to the digestive system. Maybe you had a nice lunch, what do deer eat? A delicious bush. You just ate a whole bunch of leaves. So tasty. But now a lion is attacking us. So then the body says, okay, forget about digestion. We can worry about that after we run away from the lion. Okay, so less energy to digestion. And then also the reproductive system. So if you are, let's say a lady deer is pregnant, she has a little baby deer growing inside of her. Well, I mean, if the mama deer needs to run away from a lion, the body is going to say, okay, baby deer, you just hang on for a second. Just wait. We need to take the energy that we would put into you. We need to move it on over to these big muscles so that we can run away and survive. And then you have a better chance of actually making it to birth. So when we're stressed, our body, right, as part of the fight or flight response, gives a lot of energy to our big muscles, our heart, and our lungs. And it takes energy away from our immune system, digestive system, reproductive system. Now, the original purpose of stress, like I said, is just getting away from a predator, just surviving if you're being hunted. That's something that happens quick. Like a lion is attacking. Oh no, what's going to happen? Run away quickly. Okay, and then like 2 minutes later, it's fine. The lion is gone. We can relax now. That's how stress is supposed to go usually. But now, here we are as humans, We have our evolved society. We're running around and, we don't have lions hunting us anymore, or at least I hope none of you have lions hunting you nowadays. Oh gosh, talk about stressful. But we don't have lions hunting us anymore. You know what we do have? We have jobs. We have social expectations. We have, like we need to worry about money. We need to worry about there's so many things in human life that we stress ourselves about. So many things. And you know what happens when stress becomes a long-term thing, right? And it's not that quick getting away from the predator that it's supposed to be. When stress becomes really long-term, interestingly, from the science perspective, people actually start to experience issues with their immune system. People who are stressed all the time will get sick more easily. Their digestive system, people who are really, really stressed all the time might have digestive issues, indigestion, just general like stomach problems, heartburn. And people who are stressed chronically, just all the time, they may also have issues with reproduction, fertility. Sometimes couples who are trying to get pregnant, if they find that actually, oh my gosh, like we want to have babies, but we're just so stressed all the time, that can actually make it more difficult to have children because it affects your reproductive system. And all of these things happen because your body is taking energy away from these systems over the long term. And that can cause health problems. So this was a very biology teacher kind of approach to stress, but I thought it was very interesting. And I wanted to share with you a little bit of kind of the physical side, because I think that we all have experienced the mental impact of stress at some point or another. And so it's interesting to realize that stress is not just in our heads, it's also physical. It's a physical and mental experience. Okay, so now we'll talk about some universal truths about stress. Because there's certain, like everyone has their own experience of stress. Everyone kind of feels it differently. Everyone manages it differently. But certain things are always true. Okay, so one of those things, stress in itself is unavoidable, right? So every human being, no matter where you are, no matter when you were born, could have been born 300 years ago or 300 years into the future, every human being experiences stress at some point. Stress is unavoidable. But that being said, another basic truth about stress is that we can learn how to handle this. We can grow our skills, our knowledge, and we can actually teach ourselves how to, manage this stress thing that happens to all of us. So then we become more resilient. And when stress happens, we can find ways that help us to be less negatively impacted and help us move through the stress more easily. Because it's gonna happen, but our power is in learning how to make it more manageable for us. So speaking of learning how to make it more manageable, let's talk about these management techniques. So when I'm talking about stress management, I wanted to talk about kind of two different ways or two different moments of managing stress. And one of them is like in the moment, like in those times when you say, oh man, I feel so stressed right now. And you realize it, you look at yourself and oh, in this moment, I am stressed. So when that happens, right, those are the times when it's built up and it's on the front of your mind. And so that stress can be a really big thing that takes up a lot of space in our thoughts. And so the first step that is really important is to somehow take a break from your current situation. And that might mean saying like, oh, excuse me, everybody. I'm going to go just step away for a minute. I'm maybe if you're in your house and there are just so many people in your house and you're like, oh man, too many people. This is making me crazy. Excuse me, everyone. I'm going to go to my room for maybe 5 minutes and I'll be back. So maybe see if you can take a physical break from the current situation. And if that's not possible, at least, see if you can kind of go into yourself for a moment. Close your eyes, take a breath. And when you're able to separate yourself, then focus on something that helps to ground you, something that helps you kind of not get lost in that stress. So a lot of people like to use their breath. A lot of people like to use their breathing as something to focus on that helps take their mind out of that emotion. Other people might use things that they can see. What are 5 things that you can see? What are 4 things that you can hear? What are 3 things you can smell? What are 2 things you can touch? There's so many different ways that you can ground yourself. So focus on something grounding, and that will help you to remember that, you are not your stress. Okay. The stress is a big thing in the mind, but you're not the stress. You are the person who is observing the stress, right? So it doesn't have to consume you. You are the master of it. It is not the master of you. So once you realize that, then you can start thinking, oh, okay. So I have a little space in my mind now. I did my breathing. So now I can think of next steps. So what do I need to do to get through this stressful moment? Now, what are little things I can do to help myself just get to the other side of this thing? Okay, so you just figure out what you need to do right then and there. Get to the other side of the stressful situation. And once you made it through, then you follow up with some self-care. Nurture yourself, really, especially after a stressful period, because that's when your soul needs some TLC, some tender loving care. So that leads us to now the daily maintenance. So that's self-care, right? That you want to do after a moment of stress. That is also something that you just want to do in general. Self-care, nurturing yourself. Even if you don't feel stressed in a moment, it's very helpful to use your time management skills in order to schedule some self-care for yourself. Kind of like your car, you have to do maintenance for your car. Even if it's working fine, you gotta, change the oil and rotate the tires. And that way you prevent the car from breaking down by doing little maintenance while it's still running well. So our daily maintenance, our self-care that we can do, this really helps keep us balanced. It helps to kind of prevent or lower the probability that we'll start to feel really burnt out and overwhelmed. And just like our phones, we really rely on these things nowadays. We can't live without our phones. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't want my phone to die. Like, the battery needs to be charged. When I go out, I try to make sure that my battery is charged. And even if my battery's not down to 0%, I'll still charge it up to 100 before I go somewhere. So just like that, just like our phones, you have an inner battery, and that inner battery needs recharging, just like a phone. You don't want to let it drop to 0, and then you have to scramble and try to find a charger, and it gets crazy. So just like you charge up your phone before it hits 0, just like we do maintenance on our cars before they break down, you want to recharge yourself before you get to that point of burnout and overwhelm. So, in terms of tips and tricks, here we go. Tips and tricks for stress management. I'm going to start. I have 3 categories here. Things you can do in your outer world, the things around you. Things you can do with your physical body, right? Just like maintaining this thing that we live inside of. And things that we can do in our inner world to help manage our stress. And I'm starting with outer world and physical body, then inner world, because I feel like they get more and more powerful as we go along. So outer world changes definitely helps with stress management. Physical body tips will really, really help as you continue to practice them. But those inner world shifts, the things that you can really work on and develop inside of yourself, these are the things that can really help with big, long-term changes in your life and how you manage stress. So now the outer world, okay? What can you do with the outside world? Well, one thing that I want to bring to our attention is how we use what I call escape mechanisms. Basically, things that kind of take our mind away from reality. So I think like classic examples are like alcohol and drugs. Sometimes when people are very stressed, they'll use alcohol and drugs to just take their mind away from the situation. And that's how they do it. You know, they use these substances to escape. Nowadays, there's also technology, social media, our screens, and people can use technology and social media, just endlessly scrolling to try to get away from stress and escape reality. Now, these things in themselves they're not bad things. And, you know, sure, once in a while, everyone wants to like relax and unwind, and scroll a little bit on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. But it is important to be mindful of how you're using these things and making sure that the way that you kind of take breaks from your stressful reality is in a balanced way. So whatever you use to take a break, you just want to make sure that it's not too much. Because what happens is if you end up running away from your stressful situation too much, the stressful situation doesn't go away, right? It's still there. It's just you're just delaying it. And it's kind of a way of procrastinating, dealing with the stress. Catherine talked about procrastinating. It turns out you can also procrastinate your inner work by running away from it. So one thing is just be mindful of how often you want to run away from the stress, and remember that even if your mind gets taken away from the stress, your body, your physical body is still dealing with it. Remember, stress is physical and mental. So if you can work through it sooner, you know, and kind of get to a place, help yourself get to a place where you have the capacity to deal with it, move through it, and not run away from it. That's actually a very, very helpful way to improve your long-term stress management. Okay, now slightly like more happy things is build and maintain a social support system. Oh my gosh, how important is that? Your family, your friends, people who you love and trust, who you know care about you. And it doesn't have to be a lot of people. I'm more about quality rather than quantity. So I care more about having just a few. I mean, it doesn't have to be a few, but I care more about having really good friends. Not a lot of friends, good friends. Okay. And so when you have good friends, they almost feel like your chosen family, and you share that love and that trust. And then when you share, you know, your struggles with each other, it really becomes easier to carry them on your own. It's almost like you're carrying the burden together. So social support system is so amazing for stress management. And then, of course, work-life balance. We all have work. Work doesn't only mean a job where you're paid money. Work can also be, being a student. Oh my gosh, being a student is a full-time job. You're working hard to learn, going to your classes, you're getting your assignments done, projects, deadlines, exams. There's a lot. And being a human is a lot of work. And so when you have your work in your life, you want to make sure, and this kind of ties into the time management piece, you want to make sure that you are finding time, scheduling time for yourself, for your personal, your self-care, and you want to make sure that work does not become your life. Okay, so we don't live to work, we work to live. Okay, so find that balance. And if you find that work is taking over and like taking so much of your time and energy, then then it's time to figure something out. Maybe talk to your boss or manager. Um, Thank you, Catherine Purge. But talk to your boss or your manager, or figure out some way to maybe get training or do something that makes it more manageable for you. Because if you're so stressed by work that is taking over your life, that is not sustainable. Right. So that's some outer world things that we can do to manage our stress. And then we move over to the physical body. Oh my goodness, this is so important. The physical body, again, stress is mental and physical. When we are stressed, it's not only our minds that feel it, our bodies feel it too. And the interesting thing is, sometimes when we don't take very good care of our bodies, and this can be tied into mental health struggles, sometimes we can neglect our physical bodies a little bit. When that happens, our bodies can get stressed. Like if you're very dehydrated, you can feel it. Oh, your body's kind of like weird and achy. Or if you've been eating like only, I don't know if anyone eats like this, but let's say you're eating only potato chips, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, potato chips all day, every day, only potato chips. It's my favorite. You eat only potato chips for like 3 weeks. Oh my gosh. And you say, well, I love potato chips, so I'm happy. However, your body, maybe not so much. So when we don't take care of our physical health, when we don't take care of our physical health, our bodies become stressed. And when our bodies are stressed, that takes up kind of our capacity, right? So then when we're already dealing with a little bit of physical stress, then the amount of space we have to handle mental stress becomes smaller. So a big important part of stress management is just taking care of our physical body. Part of that, like Framer said, just 30 minutes a day of some sort of light exercise. Oh my goodness, that is huge in itself. Just staying active and keeping the body like tuned up like a car. Very, very important. Other aspects of taking care of our physical selves is hydration. Drink some water, guys. Drink some water. Fun fact, when people, maybe you've seen like when people are hungover, like after drinking a lot of alcohol, and then the body kind of processes that alcohol afterwards. People get hungover, they have terrible headaches, and oh my God, my head hurts and I can't see, and I feel terrible. Did you know a big part of that is actually because one thing alcohol does is it dehydrates your brain. When you drink a lot of alcohol, it literally makes your brain kind of shrivel up a little bit, like a grape becoming a raisin. Your brain literally shrinks a little and dries out as the water is squeezed out of it. So that's why they say, if you are drinking alcohol, or if you're feeling hungover from the effects of alcohol, drink a lot of water. because literally your brain is just dried out. So staying hydrated and making sure that your body has enough water is a huge part of maintaining your health, not only for the rest of your body, but also for your brain. This guy who does all the thinking for us. Okay. And then other things I'm sure you've heard before, like eat nutritious food, a healthy diet that has like balanced vitamins and minerals. So important. And get enough rest. Try to make if you can, like as much as you can, try to figure out a sleep schedule that works for you. And remember that rest is not only sleeping, it's also important when we're awake to use our time management skills and schedule some nice rest and relaxation time for ourselves as much as we can. That's when we recharge. So when you schedule that time for yourself, maybe you can do some physical relaxation techniques, maybe some stretching, maybe some yoga, some sun salutations. Maybe you like to meditate, a great way to bring awareness to yourself and your life. Maybe you do those breathing exercises that are so grounding. Different physical relaxation techniques work for different people. Once you find one that really works for you, keep it in your toolkit, because that's a great way to help yourself manage stress. Okay. And then lastly, the inner world. So this is the most powerful way to deal with stress, making changes to the being deep inside of us, the one who is not the stress, but the one who observes the stress. So our inner world, just a few tips. First of all, spend quality time with yourself. So maybe you like to journal. Maybe you write in a journal to process kind of your daily experiences. Maybe, again, you might like to meditate, and that's a way you process your thoughts. Maybe you take time to walk through nature. Spending time in nature is so, so good. Really cleanses the mind. So whatever you like to do, maybe it's creating art. Maybe it's performing music. Maybe it's working with computers. Maybe you're a tech person like Framer. Whatever you like to do, spend quality time with yourself. That's so important. Secondly, work with a mental health professional. And this one is kind of like iffy because not everyone has access to mental health services. And so this can actually also be just like talking to somebody who we trust, somebody who helps us work through things in our life. But if you do have the chance to work with somebody, they might be able to help you figure out answers to questions like, do you have any underlying mindsets or beliefs that you're carrying around that cause you stress? They could help you figure things out like, what specific types of things trigger a stress response in you? What kind of people, what kind of environment? Because remember, everyone's stress or relationship with stress is different. So your stress experience is different from other people's. A professional could also help you figure out, well, how can you use the stressful situation as a learning opportunity or a chance to grow? Like Catherine said, things happen not to you, but for you. So how can you turn this into an experience that works for you, where you can now grow from it and take the lessons to move forward more powerfully in your life? And then I think a big part of our relationship to stress is figuring out, well, what is and is not under our control, right? So sometimes we get stressed out about things that are not under our control. So then talking to somebody could help you figure out, well, okay, these things are not under my control, but maybe I can adjust the things that are under my control. And then I can use that to help me deal with the stress from things that are not under my control. So talking to somebody who has some level of training or even just life experience can really help you answer some of these questions within yourself. And then once you have that deeper knowing, that can really help you to resolve a lot of the stress that you experience. And then finally, have fun. Have fun. Give yourself experiences that make you laugh. Give yourself experiences that bring joy to that child inside of you. And I know that you're so young right now, you guys. You're like in high school, you're 19. And so like you're at that point where you're like, oh, I feel like I still have that child inside of me. But then at the same time, I'm like becoming an adult, so I have to act like a grown up and kind of between those two states. But a little secret for you is that inner child inside of you, they never go away. That little child inside of you is always there. Even if you're 30 or 50 or 70 or 100 years old, that inner child is still living inside of you. And so a really important part of managing stress and maintaining our power is allowing ourselves to be connected to that inner child and give that inner child some opportunities to just play and have fun and laugh and just feel pure joy. Because that experience, it brings so much light, so much lightness, and really, really helps give us resilience in the times when we can be a little more stressed and things get a little more tough. So these are my general tips and tricks for how to deal with stress. And like I said earlier, everyone has a different experience. So maybe not everything works for you, but if there's even one tip that helped you today, I am happy. My work here is done. So that's what we have for you today about time management and stress management techniques. Thank you so much for being here, guys. It's such a joy to be able to talk to you about these things.
Oh,
I'll give the
wow.
floor back to you, Catherine.
That was amazing. Round of applause for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was amazing. I feel like I learned myself. I was taking notes for sure. I feel like it's so important that, you know, like you said before, it was, lions and tigers, and now is stress is all over us. And being able to manage that is a challenge, but it's
Mm,
possible, right?
absolutely.
Different ways, like you said, there's different ways to manage it, and your presentation couldn't have been better. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Catherine. I hope that I'm so happy to hear that it was helpful for you. And I hope that Framer and Samantha also got something out of it that will help you manage manage the stress in your life in a healthy and productive way.